call the meeting to order. First item on the agenda is adoption of the agenda. Does anybody have any emergent to add? Seeing none, would somebody like to move adoption of the agenda? Eric? All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Accounts payable for information. Shauna?
And I have one question, just one. The third item on the list, the AEDs, how many did we purchase and where are they located?
We purchased one and it's the replacement at the pool. We can no longer buy batteries for that.
Oh, okay.
Okay, any other questions or concerns arising from the payables? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And then D, cash and investment summaries for information. Eric? Any questions or concerns about financials? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Number 2, public hearing. So I'd like to call the public hearing to order for Bylaw 1924/2021, being the bylaw to amend Bylaw 1698/2011, being the land use bylaw, and it's to allow for M1 and C3 down. No, it's C2. Business in C2. Does anybody wish to speak on the matter? Do you have any submissions on the matter?
I have received no inquiries or comments with regard to.
Okay. Then I will declare the public hearing closed. Moving on to minutes, we have the council meeting held May 10th, 2021 for adoption.
I'll move for adoption.
Does anybody have any questions or concerns? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? That's carried. And the Town of Redcliff Library Board meeting held March 16th, 2021. Jim, for information. Does anybody have any questions or concerns about the library board? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And the Municipal Planning Commission meeting held May 19th, 2021. Larry, for information. Any questions or concerns? Kathy?
I was just curious why a food truck or matters around food trucks would be before the MPC.
Because it was brought up by one of the members of the MPC.
Yeah, it was just a question that'll be clarified at the next meeting, right?
Yep.
Yeah, a little background of it, Public Collects came to me, and I assume as well, Jerry, and they were complaining about how they were allowed to set up outside their front door, and Jerry Beach brought it up. So just starting the process that maybe we want to look at possibly having some sort of bylaw that they can't just set up outside of a brick and mortar front door.
Okay.
I won't have a say on that. I'll excuse myself, but that's where it's coming from.
Any other questions or concerns? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Now move on to bylaws. We have bylaw 1924/2021, bylaw to amend 1698/2011 for second reading. Shauna.
I'll put it on the floor for second reading.
Any questions or concerns? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And would somebody like to move third reading? Jim? Any questions or concerns? All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Requests for decisions, facility assessment completion award for consideration. I think there was 3 options there, I'm not sure. Shauna,
I will, move for option number 2 for
the recommended bid?
the recommended bid. And then I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
So what was the rationale or criteria used to, want that recommended company?
I think the best explanation would be that we felt we were getting specialists in each area of the engineering as to opposed to a generalist. So we would get a specialist for electrical, electrical engineer. You would get a mechanical engineer instead of a civil engineer.
So there was more,
Adverse.
more qualified staff to be able to do this assessment than the other companies, because they were all fairly close, right?
Yes, that was,
That was, so the
That was our
criteria
assessment,
was
yes.
you were getting more,
they scored higher in those areas.
okay, thank you.
It wasn't really close.
So
Twenty
what was
percent
80?
out from one to another, if you wanna look at percentages.
Well, at the hourly rate, saying how many hours they were gonna do, they were all fairly close.
What is the benefit of the drone investigation?
Derek?
The drone investigation was particularly of interest because we're looking at the water tower. And so the structural integrity of the water tower was nice to be able to drone some of that. While you can go up the ladder to the base of sort of the bulb, you can't see all the way around the top and stuff. You can't climb up there very easily. So that was one of the things that was kind of nice from a drone's perspective. Just a value add they offered. Not a must, but it was a good point made.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So that wasn't an additional cost to have that, it was just something that they are able to do.
Right, that was included in their bid, and it was just sort of a value add, no additional cost, and something above and beyond what anyone else offered in that area.
Any other questions? Seeing none? All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay, moving on to recycling depot project. Request for decision for the recycling depot project for consideration. Shauna.
I am going to be the devil's advocate here. I am for recycling, but I am going to request that we cancel the project for now until we either have better rationale and some, maybe a group that puts together a design on what we want and come up with something. But I think it needs to go back to our administration to come up with something better.
You don't like
Well,
the 3 that they've
when-
already put forward?
I don't, and part of it is that when I looked at the costing, for one, in the first site compared to the second site, third site, and so forth, there was only a 10% contingency added to the costing of site 1, but site 2, 3, and et cetera, there was more contingency percentages added to them. Miscellaneous costs were more, but there was no rationale at why this was done the way it was done. The other thing that came back was that the original design that was stated that there was no design guidelines, and then it came back to us saying that the cost that they arrived was from design guidelines, construction standards, and our bylaws. And yet, I don't see anywhere where it says what guidelines were used to come up with any of this price costing, because they all varied. And what standards was there that we really wanted in here? Like, how did this decision come to be that we needed to have all of this in order to make this a go?
So, I don't know all the answers to that. When I was talking to Shannon, she said they used the basic Redcliff design standard and guidelines for, as a minimum, to build this project up to. What MPC had suggested was, of course, a paved apron, site drainage, gravel, all those things, lighting. So all of those things were put in based on what MPC said for Site 1 and what Redcliff's designs and standard guideline booklet uses. So that's where they arrived at these numbers. And a lot of these numbers are the same. Like if you look at lighting, they estimated the
Yes.
cost of lighting and they carried it through all the different projects at the same price. It just basically was giving us ideas of what different locations would look like, needing different amounts of work and fencing and whatever. Like, obviously, the bigger the area, the more the fence cost is, because you're fencing a larger perimeter. So small sites mean less fencing, big sites mean more fencing.
The one on Main Street, right beside the Public Works building there, half of it would be fenced already.
Some of it is fenced, yep.
Yep.
Shauna?
Well, was there anything put forward to, as what our cost is going to be for this on a monthly or bi-monthly basis?
I think that was already talked through back before the budget even, when they talked to 360 as to what approximate costs for picking these bins up and managing our recycling. So again, that would go all the way back to the budget. And those operational costs are included in the landfill rates and garbage rates that each individual is paying. Based on this was supposed to come in, well, I think it was supposed to be here by June, and it's obviously not gonna make June.
So that was already added into the cost?
The cost of the operations were in the new rates.
Okay,
And that budget of $50,000, I believe, was incorporated into those rates too. But these are all costing more. So that's where extra money has to be found.
am I correct on saying that the 50,000 came from a grant, right?
Yes, so we have the approval on the $50,000 grant, and that grant could be amended.
What's the maximum for that grant possibility? No
There
max.
is, it's the Federal Gas Tax Fund grant, and we do have room left, and that grant allocation was doubled this year.
Next year it won't be.
Next year it won't be.
Okay.
Go ahead, Larry.
When you said that the aprons to be paved was a condition that MPC put in, MPC really didn't put that in, and I
You're
think
right,
if you,
it's
if you look at it, it's actually a condition of development.
Yep, you're right. It's in Redcliffe standard guidelines too.
Yeah.
Just MPC was enforcing.
Keep
Dirty
throwing
wrong.
MPC under the bus.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Is
Chris.
there anything, I don't know the land use bylaw like the back of my hand, is there anything in here that we could cut? Like lighting, is that in the LUB?
That was a condition, I believe.
I know it was. But I
That's-
also don't see security on here.
No, because cameras were
Security cameras.
suggested, but not, because I asked that question too, and cameras were suggested, but not,
Oh, that's the way it was written up? Okay.
they weren't a condition of development, but they were suggested.
Fair enough.
My recommendation to staff was they put in anything that was possibly could be asked for
Into the quote?
in the quote, because then we would cover any requirements MPC may put forth based on recommendations out of the land use bylaw.
Is it fair to say that that $50,000 number was never a realistic number?
That is what I've been told by our planning and project staff, yes.
So we got spoiled with that number and fell in love with that number.
Yes,
And
sir.
this is just reality.
Shauna?
So going forward, is this recycling going to be evaluated? Is there a period? Because is this something where it is cost versus savings? Or is this just something we're doing because it's the right thing to do?
I don't think we're gonna get any cost recovery out of any of this.
No, there won't be.
So once this is spent, this is gone, because this, and you recover, it will be continuous, there will be upkeep, there will be, costs that will be required to maintain this area, but we don't know what that is.
So I just want to make sure that we're making the right choice for Redcliff, that we do something along the lines of education with it, because a huge percentage of our recycling is not recycled properly, and it's contaminated, and then it ends up in our landfill anyways. So we're collecting something just to put it into our landfill. So if we're going to do this, and we're going to do this correctly, part of it needs to be some sort of education so that it is done properly and people are informed and educated and is done correctly so that we're not just paying extra to put it back into our landfill. It has to be done right.
I think that's one of the operational hurdles with any one of these sites in any municipality, is always educating the public, but it needs to be done, absolutely.
100% agree.
But at the same time, there was lots of education about the bins, and they aren't used properly either. Like, people are gonna
You
do what
won't
they
get
damn well
100%.
feel like regardless.
Yeah, you can
And-
educate all you want, sorry, but you're never gonna get 100% compliance.
Exactly.
Yeah, sorry.
And I agree with you, Jim, because just this weekend, I seen someone stuffed a mattress in one and it,
Yeah,
yeah.
I just had to pay $100 to haul crap away.
Well, I just want to make
Again.
sure that we are doing, what is right. And looking at the two the recommended per se for cost, I just want to know why the contingencies for site 2 were more than site 1. And why that came about.
Well, I know they said in their original prologue that they did up the contingency for all the sites because of, I guess, their time frame. It's not like they sat down and hard crunched these numbers. So
Okay.
they floated these numbers out and they put in a 20%. I think they tried to stick with the numbers that Corey had on option 1. I think they believed those to be accurate.
Yes, sir.
So that 10% worked in that one. Because of the time frame that they did for 2 to 5, they added more contingency. So that's telling me that they're not certain of those costs, they're guesses.
So saying that then, site 2 could be the better site to put it.
Could be the cheaper site.
Could
Right.
be. Yeah.
Contingency being equal, yeah, could be.
Okay.
$2,000 is a lot to use.
It is,
It's
right?
like 20%.
And that's why I said I don't believe that these numbers are accurate, that we need to do better.
Well, I think if I was gonna say anything, I'd say May is gone, June is next week. If we don't do something, if we send this back for further study and better pricing, I think we can basically write this year off. So if we're going to do this, I say we pick a spot and go with it. As far as using more federal gas tax, all that means is then you don't have that gas tax for other projects, cause it's a fixed number. Like, yes, we can, but that just means that all of a sudden there'd be $50,000 left for, off of other projects.
Less for, yeah.
You know, like one way or the other, we either do this or we don't. Site-wise, if site one worked, as far as 360 is concerned, I'm sure they'd like that one the best, cause it's right off the highway. They don't have to come into town, they don't have to drive anywhere, it's.
And that should affect our operating costs in the future.
Well, they were basically just charging us so much at bin dump, right? It's not, but still, if we make them drive all the way through town, then again, it's not a hardship, we're talking 10 minutes round trip, right? But that one is handy. Any of the other projects, sites, I'm not particular on what site, like my site got poo-hawed, so, yeah. And the reason why I suggested a site was for quick and dirty, so we could have bins in town. And I had suggested the opposite side of the cemetery parking lot from the cemetery, basically because it's already a gravel parking lot. If we put 5 bins there till the water treatment plant was torn down, we could easily make the old site a site for bins, and we already have power and lighting on that site. But that didn't work out. Like, any one of these sites will do. The old number 1 site would do, but, go ahead, Larry.
I think that there's actually already been quite a bit of engineering and work done on 702 South Railway Street, southeast. I think that the other ones would take quite a bit of work to catch up to that particular project right now.
Not to add another property to the list, but was there any consideration given to the golf course parking lot?
Yes.
And it was found not as good. Was that on our list, the golf course?
Yes, it is.
Oh, yeah. Good.
Well, actually, they were talking up on the berm,
Just
right?
beside.
I assumed
Oh,
more
yeah,
on the
right next
berm.
door to it. I meant
Yeah.
actually on the property, not that. Yeah.
Then they'd want a new parking lot, and that got pounded out.
Anyway, don't want to.
No, it's, like I say, we either just do it or we don't.
I still think that
That's
the
what
one
it
is
comes
up
down
on
to.
Main Street, right beside Public Works, is the spot to go.
They already got to deal with a noisy fan. That we fix.
Okay, I think right now the motion is to table it. Or actually, not, the table is the wrong word,
To send it back.
to send it back. So I think we need to vote on that. Anybody else with any discussion?
I don't wanna send it back to administration. We've been dancing around this one subject as long as I've been on council. It's time to do something or get off the proverbial pot.
Do what?
Do something.
Do.
Be politically
Do-do.
correct. Yeah, the longer we wait, the more it's gonna cost. We might as well pick a chunk of land and get it over with. Especially if next year, if the gas tax gets cut like the MSI, we won't have that money anyway. So, might as well just go for it, get it over with.
Okay. So the motion was the second one. So all in favor of the motion to send back? Opposed? It's defeated. Larry?
I'd like to make the motion that we select 702 South Railway Drive Southeast and continue on with number 1. Select one of the proposed sites and increase the capital budget for recycling depot from $50,000 to $130,000. Administration will apply to amend the funding application under the gas tax GTF. Any shortfall will be covered under the GTF, will be funded from the purchasing reserve.
Okay. Any questions or concerns? Sean?
So with this site, and there is $28,000 for lighting, could we do some solar lighting that maybe is not as costly and just have the solar lighting that has the floodlights? I know you can get them at Costco for considerably, and it would be just putting them on a pole. That it might, be an answer where we're not spending $28,000 on lighting.
Okay, well, I asked Shannon that question too, because Malcolm has 3 of them up at the Redcliff brick site, and those aren't Costco lights, those are legit street lights. And although that wasn't what was priced in here, it could be looked at. Because anything we do to bring power to that, any of these sites, is a minimum cost of $50 a month to have a meter there, just like our Brandon Primo skate park. And so that's an operational, it's a $1,000 operational fund just for electric if we put up our own darn pole. So solar lighting would be good. I don't believe we should be using residential solar lighting, but the type that they have up there at Brick Park, I've not stayed up at night to see when they actually run out of battery, but they seem to keep on for most of the night. Wintertime, if they shut off at 2 in the morning, I think it's time to recycle a better time anyway, so, yeah. It is something to look at, but.
So should we maybe give a different budget amount?
I don't know what they're worth.
Well, we should just make some direction as to that.
We don't
Yeah,
need
to maybe add,
Yeah, 'cause then
looking
it has to
into
come
solar
back if
lighting?
it's more expensive.
To at least seek it out.
Yeah,
The most cost-efficient solar lighting, if Larry likes that amendment.
If solar lighting is competitive with conventional electricity, without a doubt, yeah. But if it's not gonna work and it's more expensive, then I don't think we should do that. And I actually had, I rented property right in the corner there of, next to the twist and flip, and it's very dark there. If I wouldn't have left my lights on at night, the people coming and going there would have been in the dark. It is a dark area. There is a street light on Mitchell,
Yeah.
but it's kind of dull. Like that, there is a dark area, so it should be well lit.
Fair.
So Larry's motion, he's not entertaining friendly, but he says they can look. Okay,
Thank you, Larry.
is everybody clear on that?
no.
Okay, all in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Okay, moving on to policies. We have the Redcliff Public Library building maintenance for consideration. Did I skip one? No. There it is. It's one open. Kathy?
Okay, I'll make option number 3 that I move that Administration Council Policy number 030, the Redcliff Public Library Building Maintenance Policy, and create a facility use agreement in consultation with the Town of Redcliff Library Board.
So the suggested, recommended option.
Yes.
Does anybody have any questions or concerns? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And policy number 35, the sanitary sewerage blockage policy for consideration. Chris?
I'll make the motion for number 1. Just some clarification. So we're gonna pay for a grease blockage in the future?
No, it's not the intention to pay for a grease blockage. that was just removed because we could mention 170 different things that are in the sewer blocking it.
Mhm.
I don't know why grease was, it was probably for some particular specific case where that had happened, but the way it's worded now, any blockage that is apparent to be coming from the owner of the property in the service line, it would be something they have to look after at their own cost, be it grease, be it marbles, be it whatever.
Okay.
Very specific marbles.
Big heavy ones.
Any other questions, concerns? All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. And policy number 47, insurance claims for consideration. Shauna,
I'll move for option number 1, to approve the policy.
any questions or concerns? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And correspondence, we have a letter from to Minister Madu from us. From the
Receive for
last meeting.
information.
Kathy? Any questions or concerns? All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. And then Alberta Municipal Affairs, our 2021 MSI funding for information.
I'll move for information.
Shauna? Any questions or concerns? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Then Alberta Health Services, webpage for community partners and stakeholders for information, or a bunch of links if you want.
For information.
Shauna? Any questions or concerns? All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And the Palliser Airshed Society 2020 financial statements for
Receive
information.
for information.
Kathy? Any questions, concerns? All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And the Canadian Badlands strategic plan update.
I'll move for
Chris?
information.
Eric did or Garrett did? Any questions or concerns? All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Town of Claresholm, support for the RCMP for information. Larry? Any questions or concerns? All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Village of Rycroft. Chris? Any questions or concerns? All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And the town of High River, proposed Alberta coal restriction policy.
Receive for information.
Kathy? Any questions, concerns? All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. And Alberta Parks and Recreation, June is Parks and Recreation Month. Shauna?
For information.
Questions or concerns? All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Strategic Planning 2022 to 2026 historical action items for information.
I'll move that.
Jim, sorry Jim. Shauna?
Along with the list, it had recreation crossed off. The Recreation Master Plan was done in 2016. It was reviewed by the Recreation Board in 2020. There was many recommendations and changes made to that, and I feel that it wouldn't take a lot of work, but we should probably do either a revised master plan or an updated one.
We absolutely can do an updated one. We just took their recommendations and put them in our file for strategic planning so that they would be incorporated into our operational document.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? All in favor of receiving for information? Opposed? That is carried. And the monthly project update. Larry, you see any questions or concerns on any of the projects? That was just your hand up fast.
Yeah. I don't know what I was thinking.
Okay, all in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And council important meetings and events for information.
For information.
Shauna? Anything missing that somebody knows of? Okay, all in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Do we need a recess? Okay, would somebody like to move us into closed?
I will.
Eric?